It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
RM up next. He says, hey all, if I make enough money to max out my 401k, is it worth doing traditional contributions only and investing the tax savings into my Roth IRA, or just maxing it with only Roth contributions? So it sounds like what RM is asking is, for his 401k, it sounds like it offers pre-tax and Roth. So should he just do pre-tax in the 401k and do the tax savings into Roth, or just do Roth contributions in the 401k?
Yeah, this is a good question, but it also, I don't mean for it to always come back to the financial order of operations, but if I've created a roadmap and then you ask me a question about it, I'm always going to bring it back to make sure you are on course with what we've shared in our plans. I think it's interesting because realize if you looked at our financial order of operations, go check it out. You can go to moneyguy.com/resources. You'll see that step 5 of the financial order of operations is your health savings account and your Roth IRA. Step 6 is max out your employer's plan. It makes sense I'm doing these all out of order, so I apologize for that, RM. But step 2 is the employer match. So hopefully you've already done the employer match. Now we're trying to figure out, hey, do we do Roth contributions in my 401k or do I do Roth IRA? Can you do both? And then, and this also has the added bonus of you're saying, should I do pre-tax versus Roth contributions in my 401k? The biggest thing I would first say, because I thought this is a little outside of the financial order of operations. You said I could do traditional 401k, then use the tax savings to fund my Roth IRA. I like the thought that the Roth IRA, assuming you make under the income threshold, should come first and is separated. So I want you to do the Roth just as a primary on your focusing of funding the Roth IRA if you're allowed to, and do that at one of the low cost custodians. That's your Vanguards, your Charles Schwab's, your Fidelity Investments. The reason I like those custodians, or they're the biggest providers out there in the marketplace, is because they offer targeted retirement index funds. Any of these index funds with the total market funds plus the S&P 500 plus these target date index funds, you're going to have all the investment stuff covered. But then you can, when you roll into your 401k step 6, you're probably saying, okay, I'm young, I have a good income. Should I do the Roth contributions? And that's where we have that extra rule set that we share, is that it depends upon where your tax rate is and your age and your goals of when you want to retire. For somebody who's in a high tax bracket and a good bit older, where compounding is not as valuable as it could be for a 20-something, then it makes sense to go that traditional route. Because if you're in the 37% federal tax bracket, and say you live in a state like California where you have a 13% state income tax, you could see 50 cents on the dollar is actually going to taxes. So if you can save 50 cents on the dollar by doing traditional, it makes sense to consider those things. But for somebody who's younger and you have a lot more opportunity for compounding growth and you're not in those highest tax brackets, it makes sense that, you should do the Roth 401k option, because you're going to get a lot of opportunity for compounding growth over the long term. So that's why we've actually given some guidance is, go figure out where you are with your marginal tax brackets, both on the federal and the state, meaning what your next dollar of income will be taxed at. Add those two numbers together and then compare it. Is that number over 30%? If it is, then you especially if you're older, you probably are very much want to take advantage of traditional deductible contributions. If you're younger than that, or you're in tax brackets less than those, when you look at how much you're paying in taxes, you could consider the really huge benefit of doing Roth compounding growth, because it's tax-free, even though you don't get the current year deduction. Those things work together nicely. But don't forget, RM, you can actually fund both of these. I just don't want you to skip step 5, which is Roth contribution. Roth IRA contributions come before you're trying to load up that Roth 401k.